When I was younger, one of my favorite shows that I used to like to watch was on the Discovery Channel, and it was called Cosmos. Some of you might remember the host, Carl Sagan, very famous astronomer, and one of my favorite quotes of his really sums up what we've been learning over the last several weeks about the development of the modern worldview. Carl Sagan starts off the show by saying the cosmos, the universe, is all that ever was, is, and ever will be. And that is the worldview that, like it or not, we live in today. We are not able to live in the medieval or pre-modern world where the universe was assumed to be the creation of God and you were irrational for not believing that. Now it seems a challenge to our rationality to even believe that there can be a such thing as the supernatural. And therefore, most people, though they like to hear ghost stories and see horror films, don't really believe in ghosts. They theoretically might believe in God, but not in the same way, not with the same kind of rational foundation that those who lived before people like Schopenhauer and Nietzsche could. And so what we are now going to do is look at having established what the naturalist worldview is, that all that is just simply the universe, and that the universe and the system that science says the universe is can explain everything in the universe. Now that we've laid that view out and seen what its ethical or moral consequences for the meaning of life is, we want to see how modern Christian and theistic thinkers have responded to this. And to my mind, the best person to read on this is C.S. Lewis. Many of you know C.S. Lewis for his children's novels. He was quite famous for the Chronicles of Narnia, for The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and even for his science fiction novels. He was a great writer. But very few of us are conscious of his great contributions to philosophy itself. And the book we're reading, Miracles, is probably his most sophisticated, but yet most understandable. So some of you might be wondering, in a course about the meaning of life and about what the ultimate good in life is, aren't we changing the subject by now going to this question of miracles and their possibility? Indeed, not at all. We're going to find that the question of the existence of miracles or their possibility hits right at the center of our question about, is there objective meaning in life? You see, the word miracle, okay, the English word miracle means something that's spectacular and amazing and wonderful that happens, but it's a translation of a New Testament word that means something quite different. And that's the word semeion. We get this Greek word as the foundation for many of our English words. For example, semantics. Semantics is about meaning, right? So if, for example, you and I are having an argument and you say, oh, this is all a matter of semantics, what are we saying? We're saying it's not about reality, it's about our differences in the way we use words to mean things. And semeion is the word that's used in the New Testament for miracles. And what it literally means is a sign, a meaningful sign or signal. Say, for example, you and I are going through the forest and we want to know, is it inhabited? And we look to the sky and all of a sudden we see smoke coming. Now, if all we see is this steady stream of smoke getting bigger and bigger, you and I might say, well, there's a forest fire. But if instead what we see is little puffs of smoke going up one at a time in an orderly manner, then we would say, ooh, that's a sign. Someone is using smoke signals. That's what this word means. A sort of proof of meaning behind what looks like a natural phenomenon. So, thus, if there are such thing as miracles, if miracles do occur, then they would be a sign of an intelligence beyond or behind nature. And that is why miracles become especially relevant in our discussion. Because what we've seen is a sort of impasse in our discussion. We've seen arguments for the existence of God. We've seen arguments against the existence of God. And then we've also seen how the existence of an intelligent design behind nature makes all the difference as to what the meaning of life is. If nature is all there is and was and ever will be, then we've seen from Nietzsche and Schopenhauer that the best we can ever get as far as meaning is concerned is self-constructed meaning or social meaning, meaning that's empty in itself except for what we value. But if there is an intention behind life, if life itself is designed by an intelligent creator, then there can be this objective standard for what makes for a good human. And so this question, the question of what is the meaning of life, therefore what makes for a good life, therefore what makes for a good human, a successful human being, all hinge on this more basic question of the supernatural versus the natural. And what we've done for you up until this point in the course is develop these two worldviews that are completely antithetical to each other. One is the view that is most popular today, that the universe is all there is, was, and ever will be. That we, as Carl Sagan says, are simply really organized star stuff. If that is the case, then everything that we do and say and think ultimately can be explained as the product of impersonal and accidental forces in nature. No intention or design inherently behind it, even if it looks like it is. And we can explain why it looks like it is because of the theory of evolution. But if you and I are designed by something beyond nature, then there is a type of being that we are made of that cannot be explained by the impersonal forces of nature, that can only be explained by meaning and intention. And therefore, we see how radically at odds these two worldviews are to each other. So therefore, Lewis, in his arguing for miracles, realizes that it has two functions as far as our course is concerned. It is a sign of someone intelligent behind life, and therefore it is a clue to the meaning and intention behind life. So understanding and getting clear about whether miracles are possible or even probable is essential in our modern world for understanding what is the ultimate source of our life, and therefore what is the ultimate intention behind it. So now, signs presuppose an existing language. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say you and I are having a conversation and my wife is sitting by me, and my wife is one that's always concerned that I talk too much, because I do. I have the gift of gab, and sometimes that gift is a curse. So one time we were having a conversation with a couple, and we started talking about a subject that I know a lot about, and so I have this temptation to lecture like I'm doing now. And my wife, in the middle of some really exciting comment that I was making, which I thought was very insightful, but apparently she didn't, because all of a sudden she just went, Now, if I didn't know my wife, and I didn't understand her thinking, then I would be like, oh, do you need a tissue? Or did you choke on some water? That would be meaningless. It would just be a coincidence. But knowing my wife, understanding her mind, that cough was a sign. So here's the problem with using miracles to get at the clues behind and beyond existence. And that is, as we said, miracles are signs, but signs are not signs apart from a pre-existing conversation, apart from the presupposition that there is intelligence behind the whole shebang. And so Lewis's first task will be to, first of all, show that miracles are possible. Because unless it is possible that there is intelligence behind the creation of life, then no matter what amazing things could happen or that we could witness will happen, we will always be tempted to say, well, that was weird, but just a coincidence. And so therefore, the key to our discussion will be to discuss whether or not naturalism versus supernaturalism is true. And we'll explain how that relates in our next segment.